Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great Thursday here so far. We are going to really focus a lot on jobs and inflation as we have them kind of back in focus, plus a quick update for our question of the week on the student loan forgiveness program, which is basically no longer, as a quick little teaser, but we're going to share a little bit more of what's going on there and also when payments are set to resume. My name is Brandon Steele, financial advisor with Mainsail Financial Group, and our goal every Thursday is to bring to you the market news, the data, the trends that we're watching, and hopefully weed out a bit of the noise, as well as kind of touch on a topic of the week here, which again, this week is going to be all about the student loan forgiveness program. So going back to last week, I had mentioned for those who tune in each week that the Friday jobs number was going to be very important. And so going into this week, we have not only jobs, but also inflation data that really is going to be kind of the focus of our conversation today. So last Friday, we had non-farm payrolls numbers come out. And as a quick reminder, the Wednesday prior, we had ADP employment numbers come out, and we saw a huge number in this. It looked like there was a ton of jobs added through the month of June. Now, I had kind of shared that, we need to take that number with a grain of salt because the ADP employment number has never been the most accurate. In fact, they even stopped reporting for a while to try and revamp it, brought it back, and it's been okay, maybe at best, since it's come back. And so there was a lot of excitement, well, I shouldn't say excitement, actually a lot of concern, as weird as that sounds, about the employment number last Wednesday, because that meant that the labor market was extremely strong. The Fed was, likely to continue to hike. And then Friday, we had mentioned that this was really the number to pay attention to. And so fast forward to last Friday, non-farm payrolls, we added 209,000 jobs in the month of June. Not nearly the same story that we heard from the ADP employment report. So actually, there's a little bit of slowing there, in fact, which certainly didn't seem to be the case in that ADP employment report. And I'm going to stick on jobs before I switch to inflation. So now let's move forward all the way to today, on Thursday, where we had initial jobless claims come out, and initial jobless claims actually ticked back down slightly. So I guess where I'm going with all this is that the labor market, I wouldn't say is showing signs of cracks by any means, but certainly that Friday number was not nearly what people had expected after the Wednesday number. And then initial jobless claims, started to tick back up, but now are kind of ticking back down here a little bit. So I think that, when we look at the two factors for the Fed, jobs and inflation, it certainly looks like jobs are not going to be an impact. Not to say that those numbers aren't, that those numbers are exciting, but it doesn't look like that's going to play a role in the Fed's decision. So the second part is inflation. And here we are on Thursday. We had CPI numbers yesterday and PPI numbers today. Consumer price, producer price. So yesterday, CPI, or consumer price index, came out at 0.2%. So quite down quite a bit, to be honest with you. And core came out at 0.2% as well. So that came down slightly, not nearly as much as the headline number, but nonetheless, it was a tick down, and I think that it was a tick below expectations even, and it's just low enough, I would say, to question the Fed's move. But I do still believe that they will hike in the July meeting. July meeting is end of the month. I think it's the 27th. Bear with me a little bit. But this number, I think, was just enough to question the Fed's next decision. That said, I do believe that the Fed will continue because, remember, the core CPI number year over year is still about 4.8%, I believe it is. And so the Fed's target of 2%, we're still well above that range. Now, I'm sure they're watching this trend and saying that, maybe it's coming down a little bit, but nonetheless, still well above where they would like to be. And, even though the headline number certainly was a little bit more dramatic, the core number was what's important here. So that will be important to continue to watch. And the last inflation data point we get before the Fed decision is actually the PCE numbers, I think the day before. So it may not have much of an impact on the actual decision. It may impact how they look at things moving forward. But I think what this shows is that, again, I think the Fed's likely to hike in July, but we may hear a lot more rhetoric of slowing or pausing for the next one, giving them all the way till November before they make that decision for the next hike. So we will see still more data to roll out between now and then, but nonetheless, I think that this number was maybe the first one where it's starting to feel like maybe there's something here, and the Fed may consider weighing this a little more heavily, right? On top of that, we had producer price index come out today, roughly in line with expectations. The headline number is slightly lower, but nothing to really write home about. And coming up next week, before we get to our question of the week, we have retail sales and housing data, so we'll be sure to cover that next Thursday. But before we break today, I want to touch on our question of the week, which is really a student loan forgiveness plan update. And I want to share that as of June 30th, so you might remember, let's go back to I believe it was August of 2022, and President Biden's office had released this new program, the student loan forgiveness program, suggesting that they were going to forgive up to, I think it was $20,000 in student loans. And there was a lot of excitement around that. In fact, we wrote an article about the nuances of it to kind of share what that meant. But it was kind of, I don't want to say plagued from the beginning, but it was controversial. And so I think that there was a lot of talk out there that it was very possible that this got shot down when it actually came down to it and may not actually carry through. Well, fast forward to June 30th of this year, 2023, and that's exactly what happened. The Supreme Court ended up blocking this student loan forgiveness program. And so, surprised to some degree, but not entirely, I don't think. But regardless, it is no longer a program that will be rolled out. There will be no student loan forgiveness, at least as it stands right now. But the key to remember is let's go all the way back to COVID. So remember that the government has actually put a pause on student loan payments as a result of COVID for over 3 years now. So student loan payments have actually been paused for a very, very, very long time. And I think it's something like 9 extensions. So they started it as a result of COVID to tend to take some financial pressure off a lot of households. And they've kind of kicked the can. I think they've extended it about 9 times. And here we are now in July of 2023. Student loan forgiveness program obviously is not going through now. And I think that was part of this last extension, was to get us to that point where we were supposed to have these loans forgiven. But now there's actually an extension deadline. And so payments are set to resume on September 1st of this year of 2023. To be fair, 9 extensions later, I guess it is certainly possible that the government could push these back again. But, and not to say this isn't the only time they've said that, but they did say that would be the last rollback as part of that forgiveness program. So again, student loan payments are set to resume on September 1st, with payments beginning in October. So unless we hear otherwise, be prepared. I figured I would tie that into our student loan forgiveness program or update, because that's going to be an important factor as well for those who do have student loans out there. So keep an eye on that. Obviously, it's not to say this thing is dead entirely. Who knows? It could come back in some other way, shape, or form. But for now, no student loan forgiveness program, and payments are set to begin again on September 1st. So again, first payments due in October. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, if you guys have any questions, let me know. We'll be happy to send a copy on me if we end up using your question in our weekly updates. So feel free to comment, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, whatever works best. And we would be more than happy to help answer anything on your mind. In the meantime, have a great upcoming weekend. Enjoy the sunshine, and we will see you next Thursday.